Hello Divine Souls, and welcome to my channel, Journey of Soul Mastery. I am your host, Rebekah Cortez. If you're new to this channel, the emphasis is empowerment, empowering your states of existence. And the focus of this video is toxic ego mind, end the worrying game. So let's dive in. When it comes to worrying, people worry about all manner of things: future stability, health, aging, careers, death, finances, their past, opinions of others, the weather. Basically, any aspect that entertains speculation over the possibility of an outcome that they fear will render them irrecoverable. People also worry about conditions that don't even directly involve their own immediate life, but rather are conditions in other people's field of reality, which is totally out of our control to change. People can also exercise worrying because they feed off the drama of negative emotions as a desperate attempt to gain attention and validation from others. A lot of the current systems and models of structures in place implement the strategy of expendability, which cause conditions of desperation due to scarcity and competition mindsets, which of course perpetuates the toxic pattern of worrying about everything. This is a tormenting mental position, and the cause stems from the platform of fear, and powerlessness is the effect of lower vibrational mindsets. Worrying is a state of resistance that rejects the experience of tranquility. Worrying is a toxic mental state that induces shock waves of negative emotional cycles of stress, tension, anxiousness that kick our sympathetic nervous systems into overdrive. Feeding into the disparity of powerlessness will negatively affect your position of survival, which is running off of fear when you're engaging in worrisome tendencies. Powerlessness is a third-dimensional mental perception that attaches to the falseness that situations or circumstances are out of one's scope of possibility to achieve or create, which spirals us into an internal position of hopelessness. It is a disempowering action that draws from deep-seated fears within the unconscious states that reinforce positions of mental torment over conditions or fears a person is not willing to accept or face. Worrying is caused by a narrow but overactive mindset that agonizes about things that may or may not be valid or factual circumstances in the immediate spectrum of reality. People also worry about situations that are currently facing that they fear are going to be detrimental to their survival or the survival of someone else, such as health conditions, finances, career paths, lifestyle choices, just to name a few. Worrying has an agenda of self-interest in sight most of the time. Worrying is a mindset that deceives you into thinking that helping others requires that you worry about them and their lives so much that you start to think that it's your duty to step in and solve everyone's problems for them so that their negative lifestyle choices don't become your burden to bear in some way. You can even convince yourself to adopt the illusion that if it can happen to them, it can happen to you as well. Worrying is a large distraction for the purpose of avoidance. If we spend most of our time worrying about other people, then we don't tend to the things that are within our scope of control to change within our own lives. Worrying is assuming the absolute worst potential. Worrying becomes the lower vibrational platform that wields energetic velocity into creating exactly the outcomes that are feared and undesirable. When we engage in worrying, we place a lot of fear, negative emotion, and negative overthinking, which projects the same energetic velocity in the process of creatorship. Worrying is in direct opposition of positive outcomes of manifestation, because worrying about anyone or anything has never been a tactical approach that offers any actionable resolve, but it can definitely manifest an outcome of what is unwanted or undesirable. In this section, I'm going to be speaking a bit about the detrimental effects to the progression of positive creatorship that the word hope generates when utilized in careless ways. Have you ever paid attention to the way hope is most commonly expressed or communicated? Unfortunately, hope is a word that is most utilized when people are in emotional states of heaviness and despair and feeling powerless to control or change the situation that they're facing. Hopelessness, negative overthinking, or overfocusing on the negative possibilities, speculating, assuming, expecting, and worrying are all heavy emotional and mental states of disempowerment that all fracture from fear. But powerlessness, hopelessness, and helplessness are experienced as a result of a fear-based approach of action. Words are often utilized without any depth of thought behind them. There's a lot of words that are carelessly utilized because people are so conditioned to use certain words because they hear it all the time. So it becomes more of a reaction more than a position of response. One word that this often utilized out of context is hope. Hope is a great word to utilize when you're talking about food you hope will be good or a movie you hope is going to be good to watch. But when it comes to any immediate position regarding your life, hope should never come into the range of vocabulary, because the word hope is not a positive or empowering course of action. Essentially, formulating an attachment to hope is equal to attaching to doubt and mistrust. When we attach to words hope, hoping, hopeful, we are energetically stating words of mistrust and doubt, because hope is drawing from the same pool of speculation, expectation, and assumption as worrying does, which are all false senses of security, trust, and belief. Hope is a false sense of belief because it's not an action that fully accepts the possibility of a positive outcome. This is why when we always state hope carelessly, it has undertones of doubt within our voice. Hope is attached to the assumption and expectation, which are fear-based foundations of a third-dimensional perspective. You cannot believe something and doubt it at the same time. Worrying and hoping both draw from the same perceptions of lower vibrational viewpoints of disbelief, mistrust, expectation, assumption, doubt, avoidance, and speculation that all stem from fear and lead down the path of disempowerment. Hope is approaching manifestation from a third-dimensional state of emotional desperation and not from a sovereign, empowered stance of higher knowingness and trust. We fall into the trap of begging from a place of emotional desperation. And this is disempowering because it is in direct opposition to our divine creatorship abilities. When the word hope is used out of context, it is a very disempowering word because it cleaves to the position that we are waiting for something external to make our belief, trust, and acceptance achievable. Hope is an interreliant mental and emotional position that seeks rescue from an external source of all you fear the most. You must elevate into the truth that you create your reality and accept responsibility in your contribution to the process of manifestation, and not fall into the pattern of blaming any conditions of the external world to define your realities of existence. It is one thing to hope, but it's another thing altogether to believe, or better yet, know. It would serve your connection to trust, acceptance, belief, and knowingness to strike the word hope from your vocabulary and state instead that you believe or that you know. Changing the wording changes the energetic vibration and aligns your frequencies to match universal frequencies of truth, and not the ego's perspective of shadowed possibility through hoping. For example, when we set goals to achieve, do not hope you achieve them. Do not approach it from a place of hope. Elevate your confidence in yourself by being more optimistic and stating that you believe that you can accomplish your goals. Positive thinking is an action that promotes empowered states of existence. When we state, I hope I can, this states that you honestly doubt in your ability to some degree that you can accomplish this goal you have set, which is a disempowering approach mentally and emotionally, which will negatively affect your physical activity, participation, and willpower to stick with the actions required to accomplish the goal. What you say or think versus what you energetically send out. In this section, we're going to be offering examples of the careless usage of the word hope. I hope this doesn't happen. What you're really stating is, I fear the worst is going to happen. I am setting myself up to expect the worst, and I'm reinforcing that stance by worrying about it. I'm trying to avoid all the decisions I might have to make if this really happens. What am I going to do if? I hope it all turns out well. What you're actually saying is, a strong part of me is already convinced that this is not going to work out, or it's not working to my highest favor. And I'm worried about all the possible outcomes and the position that it will place me in that I am not prepared to face at this time. I just want to disappear and not deal with this. I presume it will all be a nightmare, and I'm not strong enough to face it, and I don't see a positive end in sight. I hope I can afford to do that. What you're really saying is I know I can't afford it, and I'm afraid of what will come next. Every time I get close to getting ahead, something always happens. And this is why I worry so much about everything, because I never know what's around the corner that's going to knock me down. I don't know why I even try so hard. Nothing ever works out for me. I hope they get better. On some varying degrees, when people say this, they really don't believe how it's possible for them to get better based on maybe what the doctor says or what other people are saying about it. And what you're doing is you're feeding into what people are saying instead, and feeding into the fear of the worst case scenario and worrying about it. And often it's also touching on what you fear, all the next steps that come into play that you don't want to face if the person doesn't get better. So I'm trying to remain hopeful, but I doubt that it's all going to be okay. There's not a person on this planet that doesn't have to work through fear. Worrying about fear is not going to solve anything, though. We must sit with it, face it, analyze it, follow it back to the root of the cause by asking the deeper questions to get to the answers required to heal and resolve the fears of our past so that they don't negatively influence and inhibit our present states of being. The worst thing that we can do to ourselves is feel badly about being afraid. Fear is not weakness. Fear is a trigger alerting us to conscious truths that there are aspects that are deep-seated within our unconscious states that require our attention and healing. The more willing we are to do the shadow work, the quicker we will get to the root of the cause and transmute fear into peace. This is a process that no one is exempt from facing in their lifetime. We all have varying degrees of difficulty when it comes to fears, but we all have them. What is most important is how we manage our fears. It is not wise to try to bury them and act like they don't exist. That's just denying the obvious existence of something. The only positive approach is accepting the fact that you are afraid, acknowledging your worthiness to heal, and loving yourself enough to do what is required to achieve peace. So here's some positive facts to help combat worrying. 1. The fate of the world does not solely rest upon your shoulders. 2. Worrying is not an action that will ever produce clarity and resolve. 3. Only the decisions you make for yourself in your life determines the fate of your reality. 4. It is not your responsibility to micromanage this world or the universe. 5. Your whole world is not going to fall into peril because others do not do things exactly your way. 6. Just because it happened to someone else does not mean you are fated to experience the same thing. 7. Perpetual worrying is opening the door to manifest your worst fears coming true and becoming reality. 8. People are what they choose to be. Worrying about it is not going to change them. 9. There is always a solution to everything, but focusing on the negatives will never get you to the solution. 10. Just because you don't see the value in someone or something doesn't mean it has no value or purpose. 11. There are only two platforms to operate from, fear or love. All experiences are based on two platforms of energetic creatorship. 12. You can only manifest meaningful, fulfilling realities of experience based on the creatorship velocity of love. especially self-love. Be the change you want to see in the world. Solution. 1. Willpower. 2. Trust. And 3. Acceptance. Optimism is built from trust. Trust is built from acceptance. Acceptance is the opposite of resistance and is built from love. Willpower is your superpower. Willpower is free will in motion. Being fully present in each moment supports the mind by stabilizing and grounding you into the reality of now. Intuitiveness is the portal for all higher consciousness to channel universal information, higher perspective, wisdom, understanding, knowingness, clarity, insight, and all manner of divine potential that operates from the platform of love, but also requires a stability of presence to flow without resistance. How does this all tie in to the toxic mind game of worrying? Well, love is the foundation that supports self-trust, self-acceptance, free will, and universal self. In our willingness to accept ourselves on a physicality level, we learn how to ground into the presence of now and stabilize our ego minds by breathing and embracing the presence of each moment. And this also expands our acceptance of universal self because of more stable, balanced states of presence. As we deepen our self-acceptance, we formulate the optimism to step into the trust and knowingness in our ability to lead ourselves through life with an elevated perspective on how we analyze the world around us and the experiences we encounter that offer the opportunity for us to exercise willpower in expansive ways that draws from the wisdom, patience, understanding, knowingness, clarity, insight, and all manner of intuitiveness from the conduit of expansiveness of higher self. All qualities that love umbrellas must be experienced on a personal physicality level before we truly understand how to extend all those qualities to others in the universe. The only solution to end the plague of worrying within the ego mind is the pathway of self-love, self-acceptance, self-trust, and the willpower to resist all opposition from a place of love. This is what reinforces the presence of our universalness, which is the aspect of self that all love flows unconditionally and infinitely. When we connect and integrate with higher self, we open the portal of intuitiveness to flow without resistance or restraint. We strengthen our ability to allow higher self to be in the forefront of the operating seat of consciousness, and all that we were despairing about suddenly diminishes, and we do not see the point to the toxic pattern of worrying because knowing trumps the position of speculation. You have the willpower already to resist lower vibrational states of mental unwellness, and worrying is a huge sign that you are unbalanced and spiritually unwell. If you accept self fully, you accept that you are universal. When that moment happens, you reclaim all that is divinely yours. You accept the truth that if you can manifest the worst, you can manifest the highest potential. You stepped deeper into the universal you that knows all is working to your favor. So therefore, worrying is a meaningless waste of time, effort, and energy. You accept your creatorship purpose and trust in your ability to exercise willpower in manifesting in positive, expansive ways. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this information to be helpful, please share it with someone who you feel can benefit. Please like the video. Take the time to subscribe so that you can receive future notifications on upcoming videos. Bye for now.